Hello, LP Brown artists. It's Mrs. Bloom, and you might notice my background is different than normal. This week, we are going to focus on story quilts, specifically the artist Faith Ringgold. The quilt behind me is made by our librarian, Miss Zylstra, and quilting, if you aren't familiar with it, is simply pieces of fabric sewn together to create patterns and designs. So what you see back here is all separately cut out and sewn together to create a giant quilt. It's pretty big. Woo. So thank you to Miss Zylstra for sharing that and making my background beautiful. Here is Faith Ringgold, the artist that we're focusing on. She is known for her quilting, her paintings, and her books. She's very talented. And she started out with her quilting as a child in elementary school. She had asthma and food allergies and had to spend a lot of time at home and in bed, kind of like Frida Kahlo. And her mom would give her scraps of fabric and needle and thread, and she would take that time to sew and experiment with fabrics. As she got older, she wanted to be an artist, so she pursued art school in 1948. But unfortunately, at that time, women were not allowed to get that kind of degree. They weren't allowed to get a liberal arts degree. So she looked at her options and became a teacher instead, and she ended up loving it. She did it for 20 years, but came back to her passion of art. She started out with painting and sculptures and really got into story quilts. So quilts with a specific story in mind. Here's one example. This is called Sonny's quilt. Her friend Sonny was a famous jazz musician, and he would look for private places to practice his horn. So he wouldn't be bothering people. He'd get some privacy. And his favorite place to practice was at the top of a bridge on a walkway in New York. So she created this quilt to show his story. And so it looks kind of like a painting, but this is really all pieces of fabric. Notice the border around there with different triangle shapes and patterns. You'll see borders in all of her quilts. Here's another example. This is called the dinner quilt. And this shows her memories as a child of spending Christmas at her aunt's house. You can see they're sitting around the dinner table. And when she would present these quilts, it wouldn't just be you looking at the quilt or her telling the story. There would be singing and dancing and chanting, and you would repeat things that she says. So it would be an exciting presentation. She wrote a bunch of books. Here are 3 examples. You can see they're inspired by the quilts. So Tar Beach is the one that we're going to read today. And it's all about a dream that she had as a child that she could fly over the city, which I think would be an amazing talent to have, amazing superpower. And if you go back and looking in the background here is the quilt showing the story of Tar Beach. So you can see her flying over the city there. And then she turned it into a book. So here's the story. For my live Zoom classes, I will play it. But for this situation, please go to your Schoology folder and you can press play since I'm not able to share it in this video. So check it out. It says Faith Ringgold's Read Aloud. It's the actual artist, Faith Ringgold, reading the book. So I hope you enjoy it. So now it's your turn to think of a story that you would like to share. So it can be any story at all, but if you're having a hard time thinking of a story you'd like to share, here are some ideas. So first, like Tar Beach, if you could fly anywhere, where would you go? What would you see? What would you do? Share a dream you've had. You could even combine it, a dream of flying somewhere. Or it could be a favorite memory with your family. We have holidays coming up, so maybe a favorite memory from some holiday traditions. So once you have a story in your head, just one, you can pause the video and collect your art supplies. You will need a piece of paper, your favorite drawing tool. I'm always a big fan of crayons. And a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, please let me know and I can send one home with your school supplies this week. You can also, a good option is using the edge of a book or something straight to create that straight line. So pause the video, get those supplies, and keep that one story in your mind. I'll see you soon. All right, for my younger students watching or anyone that's just not super comfortable with measuring with a ruler, this is for you. So we're going to create our border, which is the area on the outer edges, the perimeter of your paper. So if you're just wanting to kind of eyeball it, estimate, you're going to take your ruler or whatever straight edge you're using and line it up on the edge there and draw a line. There we go. And then you can just kind of look and go, okay, I'm going to separate this into squares. I'm going to use my ruler though, because I'm at a weird angle here. So straight line, and try to do just a bunch of little squares that are approximately the same size. And you're going to do that all the way around the outer edges of your paper. Whoop. Like that. So there's one edge, and you're going to do it on each edge. If you are older or you're wanting a little more of a challenge, go ahead and follow the next type of border that I did. If you're just going to do this one, you can continue just estimating. So I know that my paper is 12 inches long, so I'm going to do 2-inch rectangles. So counting by twos, I line it up and I go, okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then the end is 12. So I have 2-inch sections going there. And to make it a square, I'm going to want to go 2 inches the other way too. So 2, 2, 2. Now I'm going to connect those dashes to make one long line. And then every 2 inches, I'll draw a vertical line. So there's 1, 2. And when you're quilting, when you're cutting the fabric, you have to be so precise, because if you mess up, if you're sloppy with it or you are off by a little bit, your quilt will be crooked. Okay, there's one part of my border. Now I'm going to continue doing that on the other side. So you could just do the top and the bottom, or you could do all 4 sides. So I'm going to go on the other side now and measure 2 inches out. Now, again, every 2 inches, I'm going to draw a line. 1, or 2, 4, 6, oh wait, that's messed up, that's okay. Well, if this is a real quilt, it would be all messed up, but that's okay, it's not a real quilt. I realized I didn't think about the fact that, wait a minute, this side is 9 inches, and 9 inches cannot be divided by 2. That's okay. And this other side, and I'll just make it all match. And I'm just going to do the same mess up that I did on this side to make it equally messed up, I guess. And I'm just gonna connect here. And doing my 2-inch marks. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Here is my completed border, and you are welcome to incorporate designs that go with your story. Like my story is going to be about planting a garden every year with my mom, so I included some sort of sunshine design, flower, and then in the middle will be my story all about gardening with my mom. So I'm not going to show that right now. I want you to go ahead, stop the video, and draw your story. I'd love, love, love for you to take a video or picture and send it to me. You can also flip your paper over and write your story down. And you can write down who inspired your story, the story quilt, which is Faith Ringgold. And I hope you guys have fun with this assignment. maybe you can learn how to sew your own quilts with your grandma or your mom or dad, whoever it might be. All right, I'll see you next week.